Marriage is frequently presented as the ultimate union, a space where two individuals merge their lives, aspirations, and duties. Yet, for many men, the reality of matrimony often diverges sharply from the idyllic narrative they've been led to believe. From the moment they utter, "I do," they're propelled into a role that frequently demands more than they can deliver. The weight of unspoken expectations as financial providers, emotional anchors, and protectors. Men often step into marriage unaware that this seemingly equitable partnership can transform into a situation where their needs are marginalized, their emotions stifled, and the entire weight of the relationship rests squarely on their shoulders. Today, we're unveiling the concealed realities of how marriage can exploit men and the reasons why so many find themselves bearing a steep cost. The illusion of equality from birth. Society begins to shape us into predefined roles we must fulfill to belong, gain acceptance, and be perceived as valuable. For men, one of the most ingrained roles is that of the provider, the protector, and the leader within a relationship. This role becomes particularly entrenched within marriage. We're taught from a young age that marriage signifies the pinnacle of equality, but does this hold true for men in practice? The notion of equality in marriage often remains an ideal rather than a lived experience. We're told that marriage involves two people coming together to share their lives equally. The portrayal of women and men as equal partners in love, work, and emotional investment sounds appealing in theory. However, what unfolds when you peel back the layers of this supposedly balanced dynamic? Many men discover they are under constant pressure to fulfill a set of expectations far exceeding their initial understanding. They are expected to be emotionally available, to champion their spouse's dreams, to provide financially, and to be the one who resolves conflicts. Simultaneously, society still expects men to suppress their own emotions, avoid displaying weakness, and remain the steadfast rock of the relationship. This creates an imbalance in the marriage, one often subtle on the surface but profoundly impactful on men's well-being. Consider how relationships are frequently portrayed by society. Men are conditioned to believe that marriage will bring them companionship, stability, and a profound emotional connection. But what transpires when reality falls short of these hopes? What happens when a man invests everything, his time, energy, resources, only to realize his needs and desires are being overlooked or undervalued? The very concept of equality becomes a snare, a promise that sounds good in theory but seldom materializes in practice. This imbalance becomes particularly evident when we examine the responsibilities men bear in marriage. Men are expected to provide, protect, and serve as the emotional cornerstone of the relationship. Yet, when challenges arise, the burden often falls solely on their shoulders. While women are lauded for their nurturing qualities, men are expected to maintain composure, often without being afforded the space to express their own emotions or needs. In numerous instances, men are not encouraged to seek assistance or even to admit when they feel overwhelmed. The financial aspect of inequality. The financial dimension of marriage offers another stark illustration of this disparity. Men are traditionally viewed as the financial providers. They are expected to generate income, manage household expenses, and frequently sacrifice their personal aspirations for the family's financial security. Meanwhile, the idea of shared finances often remains a superficial ideal. Men are expected to shoulder the entire financial responsibility while simultaneously navigating the pressures of a demanding career and maintaining a sense of personal accomplishment. Conversely, in many marriages, women are frequently encouraged to prioritize emotional well-being, nurturing the family, and supporting their partner's ambitions. However, this doesn't imply that women are exempt from their own set of societal pressures. Indeed, women are also expected to fulfill specific roles, including being emotionally available, maintaining the household, and ensuring the relationship's stability. Yet, these pressures are often depicted as inherent or natural qualities, whereas the pressure on men to provide and protect is viewed as an external force that burdens them. Why, then, does this illusion of equality persist, despite the deeply ingrained roles men are expected to inhabit? A powerful reason lies in the societal structures that continuously reinforce these traditional gender roles. From a young age, boys are taught that strength entails sacrificing their own needs for the greater good. Men are told that true masculinity means providing for their families, tackling challenges independently, and keeping the household running smoothly. They are expected to embody stoic resilience, even when silently succumbing to the weight of these expectations. This imbalance often goes unnoticed, because it's so deeply embedded in our perceptions of relationships. When a man works long hours to support his family, he isn't seen as a victim of exploitation. He's seen as a diligent, responsible partner. When a man remains emotionally stoic, offering strength to his wife and children, he's seen as a pillar. But who provides support for the man when he feels on the verge of collapsing under the immense strain? The expectation that men must always be the ones to provide, protect, and hold everything together is not only unjust but also detrimental. It restricts men emotionally, financially, and personally. Men are expected to give entirely of themselves. Yet when it's time to receive something in return, the rules abruptly change. The concept of equality becomes distorted, favoring societal expectations of men but doing little to address the emotional needs men often quietly struggle with. Ultimately, the illusion of equality in marriage obscures the deeper dynamics at play. Men are expected to contribute in ways that go unnoticed, to bear burdens that are frequently invisible to others, and to maintain their role as the strong, silent partner. When we discuss the sacred nature of marriage, we must also acknowledge its darker faceted side where promises of mutual respect and equality are not consistently upheld. In reality, the equality often discussed in marriage is more of a myth than a truth. Men are expected to be everything, providers, protectors, emotional anchors, without being afforded the same degree of vulnerability or emotional release that women often experience. The very idea of equality is warped, concealed beneath layers of unspoken expectations, societal norms, and an overwhelming pressure to perform in ways few can genuinely sustain. The burden of finances. When most people contemplate marriage, they often envision shared responsibilities to individuals pooling their resources, supporting each other, and building a life together. However, for many men, the reality of marriage entails an overwhelming financial burden that frequently rests squarely on their shoulders. The idea that marriage is an equal partnership can feel more like a facade, when it becomes evident that men are often the ones expected to bear the heaviest financial load. From the moment a man enters a marriage, he is conditioned to believe he is the primary provider. Society, family, and even the woman he marries place this expectation upon him. Whether it's funding the wedding, covering household expenses, or securing the family's future, men are expected to be the primary income earners and ensure the marriage's financial stability. On the surface, this might appear to be a noble expectation. After all, providing for a family is a responsibility. But what often goes unmentioned is how this pressure can gradually deplete a man's energy, time, and emotional well-being. Are told that being a good husband means financially supporting their wife, but no one seems to acknowledge the toll this takes on their mental health, personal goals, and happiness. This financial burden isn't limited to daily expenses. It extends to long-term expectations. From debt repayment to financing children's education, the man is expected to plan for the future in a way that often leaves him feeling trapped. He is expected to sacrifice his own desires, whether career ambitions, hobbies, or even personal freedom, to ensure the family's financial security. In some relationships, the financial burden can become even more pronounced. The wife might adopt a more passive role in financial matters, relying on her husband to make significant financial decisions and provide the majority of the income. This dynamic can be suffocating for men as they find themselves working harder and longer hours to sustain the lifestyle their wife and children have grown accustomed to. The irony here is that while women are encouraged to prioritize emotional connection, self-care, and nurturing the family, men are frequently expected to forego their own needs to provide financially for the family. What happens when the marriage dissolves? This is where the financial burden on men becomes even more stark. Divorce, which disproportionately impacts men financially, leaves many men struggling to rebuild their lives both emotionally and financially. Men who were once the primary providers may find a substantial portion of their income directed towards child support, alimony, and asset division, in addition to the emotional pain of losing their family and home. In many instances, a man will have spent years accumulating wealth and security only to have it dismantled in a divorce settlement. He is left financially supporting the life he once shared with his wife, even after the relationship has ended. This financial fallout often compels men to compromise their own financial security and future, leaving them striving to maintain their standard of living while providing for their children and ex-wife. However, it's not just the aftermath of divorce that presents financial challenges. It's the entire duration of the marriage. Men are frequently expected to work harder and longer hours to meet the family's escalating financial demands, with little opportunity to focus on their own well-being or personal goals. The pressures of being the sole financial provider can lead to burnout, stress, and resentment. Yet, men are rarely given the space to articulate these struggles without being criticized or perceived as weak. This imbalance is further exacerbated by the fact that, in many marriages, women are not expected to contribute financially in the same way. While there's nothing inherently wrong with one partner assuming a more active role in the household, the issue arises when men are expected to bear the majority of the financial responsibility without any acknowledgement of the toll it takes on them. The narrative that men should always be the ones to provide while women focus on nurturing the family creates an unspoken inequality that can feel suffocating for men. In modern relationships, some women may choose to work and contribute financially, which can certainly help alleviate the burden on the man. Nevertheless, even in these cases, the expectation often persists that the man should be the primary breadwinner. The added stress of having to meet these expectations while still maintaining the household Raising children and managing daily responsibilities frequently leaves men feeling overwhelmed and unappreciated. This constant pressure to provide can lead to a sense of isolation. Men may feel they are perpetually giving their time, energy, or money and never receiving anything in return. They may begin to question whether their efforts are truly valued or if they are simply fulfilling a role society has dictated for them. The financial burden of marriage isn't merely about money, it's about the emotional weight that accompanies it. Men are expected to give everything they have, often at the expense of their own well-being. The idea that marriage is a partnership of equals becomes hollow when it's clear the man is shouldering the majority of the load. And when difficulties arise, when the marriage ends or falters, it is often the man who pays the price, emotionally, financially, and mentally. Ultimately, the financial burden marriage places on men is one of the most significant, yet least discussed, aspects of the institution. That the expectation to provide, protect, and financially sustain the family can leave men feeling trapped in a cycle of sacrifice. And when the marriage concludes, the repercussions can be devastating. The truth is that men frequently bear the brunt of financial responsibility with little to no recognition of the toll it exacts on them. As the burden intensifies, so does the realization that this unbalanced dynamic represents one of the hidden truths about marriage that few are willing to acknowledge. The emotional cost. Marriage is often perceived as a partnership, a bond between two individuals who share their lives, dreams, and futures. But what is seldom discussed is the emotional toll marriage exacts on men. Men are frequently expected to be the strong ones, those who provide, protect, and keep everything together, but who is there to support them? Who helps carry the emotional weight when they feel overwhelmed or empty? In many marriages, men are conditioned to suppress their emotions. Society teaches men from a young age that vulnerability is a weakness, that showing emotions is something to be ashamed of. Consequently, upon entering marriage, they often feel compelled to be the steady rock, the one who never falters, never displays fear or sadness. This societal expectation is one of the most perilous aspects of marriage for men, as it leads to emotional repression, isolation, and ultimately burnout. While women are often encouraged to express their feelings and seek emotional support, men are expected to keep their emotions in check. This can foster an unhealthy dynamic where the man feels he must bear the emotional load of the relationship while neglecting his own needs. Men are expected to be emotionally available for their wives, to listen to their problems, offer solutions, and provide comfort. Yet, when the man himself is struggling, his needs are frequently overlooked or dismissed. The emotional burden men carry in marriage can be incredibly heavy. Men are expected to provide emotional stability, but they are rarely given the space to express their own feelings. The result is a perpetual internal struggle. Externally, they are the strong, dependable partner, but internally, they may feel emotionally drained, unappreciated, and alone. Their own emotional needs are often relegated to the background as they prioritize the needs of their spouse and family. This emotional exhaustion can lead to feelings of resentment. Men begin to resent the expectations placed upon them, the pressure to be perfect, to never falter, to always have the answers. They begin to feel as though they are giving everything to the marriage but receiving little in return. When men invest their time, energy, and emotional support in their wives without receiving a similar level of support in return, they start to question the fairness of the relationship. The emotional toll can also manifest physically. Chronic stress, anxiety, and depression are common consequences of single-handedly carrying the emotional weight of a marriage. Men who feel unable to express their emotions are at a higher risk for mental health issues because they bottle up their feelings, which can lead to emotional breakdowns later on. The constant pressure to maintain a facade of strength is exhausting, and over time, it can cause deep emotional wounds that are difficult to heal. Another facet of the emotional toll on men is the fear of failure. Men are often expected to be the ones who solve problems, provide solutions, and care for their families. When things go wrong in the marriage, whether it's a financial issue, a disagreement, or an emotional conflict, men frequently internalize the blame. They feel responsible for fixing everything and ensuring the family remains intact. This sense of responsibility can be overwhelming, particularly when the man feels no one is there to help him carry the load. Even when men attempt to express their struggles or ask for help, they are often met with resistance. Society teaches men that asking for help is a sign of weakness. Consequently, many men choose to suffer in silence rather than admit they are struggling. This only deepens the emotional toll, making the man feel more isolated and alone. The idea that men should always be the ones to handle things can leave them with nowhere to turn when they need support. The lack of emotional validation in marriage is another source of strain for men. While women are often encouraged to seek emotional validation and support from their partners, men are expected to provide that validation to their wives without receiving the same in return. Men often feel their emotional needs are ignored or minimized. When they try to communicate their feelings, they may be told to man up or get over it. This dismissive attitude towards men's emotions only exacerbates the emotional strain. Emotional toll isn't solely about the daily pressures of marriage. It's also about the long-term effects of consistently putting others first. Men are conditioned to prioritize their wives, children, and families above themselves. But what transpires when a man's needs are continuously overlooked? Over time, this can lead to feelings of worthlessness, resentment, and a profound sense of dissatisfaction with the relationship. So, what is the remedy for this emotional toll? The initial step is for men to recognize that their emotions matter. They need to acknowledge their own feelings and ensure their emotional needs are being met. Marriage should be a partnership where both partners support each other emotionally, not where one person carries the entire weight of the relationship. Men need to feel they are permitted to express their feelings without fear of judgment or dismissal. Marriage should not be a place where men are expected to constantly sacrifice their emotional well-being for the sake of others. It should be a space where both partners can demonstrate vulnerability, share their struggles, and support each other through difficult times. Until this balance is achieved, the emotional toll on men will persist as one of the hidden truths of marriage that few are willing to confront. The reality of marriage is that it's not always the fairy tale we've been promised. For many men, it's a realm of unspoken sacrifice where they give everything, often with little in return. If you've experienced the emotional, financial, and mental strain of marriage, know that you are not alone. The hidden costs of this institution are greater than most are willing to admit, and it's time we begin discussing them. If you've ever felt the emotional burden of marriage or struggled with these expectations, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below. Let's initiate an honest conversation about the concealed realities of marriage that impact men globally. And if you found this video insightful, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more candid discussions about relationships and